Hello, welcome to the Mystical Institute of Healing Arts. This is Alicia McNaughton, and I'll be your host for today's topic, which is all about the clairs. I get this question a lot when I'm giving readings or I'm teaching classes and giving intuitive feedback. People will ask me, how do I develop my abilities? Were you born that way? So I decided to make a video to talk about it. And what we're talking about are these things: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairgustance, and this one is clear smell, clairofactance, I believe. I haven't really looked at that word a lot, but I do have that clear smell. So we're talking about clear seeing, clairvoyance, clear hearing, clairaudience, clairsentience, clear feeling, claircognizance, which is clear knowing, clairgustance, which is clear taste, and I do have that one too. These came later in life though, the clear taste and the clear smell, and clairfactance, clear smell, yeah. All right, so here's my answer. First I'll talk in general. I've been teaching psychic development, intuitive development, energy healing since 2010, and probably a little bit before that, but professionally since 2010. Ongoing, I've always had people that I've been teaching, so I've had a lot of experience also learning in classes and watching other people develop with other teachers. So this is based on many years of observing, how the clairs function and other people, not just myself. Most people, the more common ones is clear feeling. Okay, so most people, they can sense a person's vibration. They can sense when a room has negative vibes. There's, people want to feel good, and they gravitate towards what feels good. Every once in a while, I will run into people that don't feel very much, and they have a different clair that they're used to. Usually the people that don't feel energy and aren't energy sensitive, they've learned how to go into their gut and have a really strong sense of knowing. And they're also very mental, like in their mental body, mentally focused, intelligent, intellectual. And that serves them, but it also makes them less energy sensitive. So for a little while they will be very analytical about their spirituality. I've met a lot of people like that too. There's the people who are extremely open and wide-eyed and clairvoyant, and they see a lot of stuff, and oftentimes people who are clairvoyant when they're young, especially if they're living in houses that need clearing, or if they have a lot of illness or alcoholism or addiction or trauma and abuse in their family household, and they're super clairvoyant, they'll try to shut it off because they don't want to see, the negative energy around people when they're having these uncomfortable emotions like anger, rage, fear, intense fear, guilt, shame. Those types of things will cause people to close up their vision. So we teach, when we do psychic development, we teach people how to go back and talk to their inner child when you've been through that kind of an experience, so that you can reawaken your spiritual abilities and go back to when you chose to shut them down. So that's one of the things that's really important in psychic development. You're very magical when you're a child, especially between the ages of 1 and 5. This is when you're very connected to your angels in the celestial realm. I know Lazarus, who's a famous channel, calls that age the magical child. And there's a lot of really beautiful work that you can do to reclaim your magic as an adult by going back and doing inner child work from things that happen between 1 and 5. Anytime that there's been a split, where you went through a trauma and now you've split, that part of you is not going to be able to access your light and will create what's called an energy block. So it's important to learn about healing your blocks in general, even if it happened when you were a young adult or a teenager or after the age of 5. Any of these times you can create a split from your energy, and you won't feel complete, you won't feel whole. So oftentimes people will come to spiritual development classes and the like to become whole, so that they can learn how to find those missing pieces of themselves. And it's a really powerful healing process that people go through when they're in psychic development programs or in energy healing programs. I would say it's like 50-50 in a lot of the classes that I've been to as a student, and in a lot of the classes that I've taught. Half of the people in it really want to go out there and do this as their career, being a psychic reader, an energy healer, spiritual teacher of some kind, and the other half are just enjoying the energy and wanting to heal themselves, but they have their 9-to-5 job, or they're a full-time mom or something like that, and they don't really want to step out and be a professional woo-woo type person, they like to call it. They joke about it. And sometimes that changes. Sometimes you'll go into it for a little while to heal yourself, and then change your mind. You'll be so blown away by what it's done for you that you'll go out and want to share it with other people and become more outgoing with it and share your gifts with others. But to start off, people usually have like 1 or 2 of their clairs that are functioning. The clear hearing is another one. It's more of that internal voice, but it gets stronger than that. When you start working with your spirit guides, you can start to sense a vibration, like an energy signature, and like what they stand for, what they're here to teach you. And it'll be very clear that what you're hearing is not your own voice. But when it first starts, it's that really beautiful inner voice that guides you, where you know you're on the right track, or you know you're not on the right track. It's that conscience. So we call that clairaudience or clair hearing. It's also a form of channeling. So when I teach channeling, and you're hearing and you're listening for spirit, that's the part where we call it relay channeling, where you're listening for a message and then you're going to share it. That happens with mediumship as well. So mediumship is when you're working with loved ones, you know, spirit people who have left their physical bodies, but they're still around and they still have unfinished business and messages of encouragement, you know, ancestral work to do on the earth plane. Mediums are people that can hear that, sense that, know that they're there, and communicate with them in some way. And it's very different than, you know, your spirit guides, which I thought I had a card here on spirit guides. Anyways, your spirit guides are different. So people will say, oh, my dad's my spirit guide, or my mom's my spirit guide, or somebody that they loved in spirit is their spirit guide. And in a way, you know, if they're there and they're guiding you and they're in spirit, that makes sense, right? But there's also a very, very different vibration. They come from a different place. We work with beings of light that are here for the highest good of all, you know, all concerned is one of the good phrases. You know, I'm only going to work with the love of spirit and those that are here for the highest good of all concerned is a good rule of thumb. Working in the 5th dimension and higher is a good rule of thumb. And intention is really important when you're working to create a connection and to know how to turn your abilities on and off. It works with intention. Energy follows your intention. So if you dial it up and say, I want to work with the love of spirit, I'm calling in the highest vibrational light, you know, light beings, angels, ascended masters, divine feminine, higher self energies. This is different than a spirit person. These higher vibrational beings, many of them are here watching over everybody on earth, and some of them are your own personal spirit team. So the ones that are for everybody are more You know, like Archangel Michael is a really popular one. Buddha is another really popular one. And people have created a lot of religions. You know, Yeshua or Jesus is another name for a really popular one. Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene or Kuan Yin. These are ones that, you know, many people have heard of. And then there's your personal soul journey where you have connected with higher dimensions. And so, you know, you have, you know, star beings, light beings that are your particular spirit guides too. So anyways, you can sense that they're there. You can sort of see it. So if you're clairvoyant, clairvoyant works with your eyes open, which is harder, or your eyes closed, which is easier. When they're open, and you're seeing the really high vibrational ones, they'll come in as like sparks of light in the corner, or I like to see their wings open up behind them. When I was, you know, working in more traditional settings, I would see them come into the room and just guard and hold space and open up their wings really big in the background and just hold space for people. And for me, all day long, being able to do what I do is really something to see and to experience, and it cradled me and they would wrap their wings around me, and I felt really comforted by that. People usually do. Especially if you're somebody who is what they call an empath or emotionally sensitive. Empathic people can actually feel so strongly the vibrations in the room that, like, if somebody else has a toothache, you know, you can actually feel the toothache in your own mouth, kind of a thing, which is really difficult clair. But it is some of the strongest psychic information you'll ever receive. I mean, it just doesn't lie. Energy does not lie. You'll feel it, and it's just true. Very accurate read coming from clair feeling. It's just really difficult. You don't want to feel all of it. So when I didn't want to feel it, I started envisioning these dials, and I would turn down my clairsentient, clair feeling, and turn up my clairvoyance and say, okay, I want to be able to see what's going on. I want to be able to know claircognizantly what's going on. I want to be able to hear and listen to what's going on. I don't want to have to feel all of these feelings all the time, or wounds, you know. And it started to work because, again, energy follows intention, and I was telling myself to open these abilities. I was telling my third eye to open. I was telling my ear chakras to open, right? So everybody has a third eye. Everybody has ear chakras. Everybody has, you know, if you're depressed or if you lost faith because of trauma or wounding, oftentimes we'll disconnect in the crown chakra, which makes it more challenging for us to connect with higher vibrational energy. And we just go inward, and we're like down here in the 3D having a difficult time until we learn to reopen those clairs. So coming into a psychic development program is saying, you know, yes, I'm ready to start to connect with my higher vibrational energy. I'm ready to start to be of service again. I'm ready to ask my angels for help. And this is when we start to remember, like, what type of soul we really are, which is really fun. So you probably heard a lot of the channelings about the indigo children or the crystal children who don't really fit in with everybody else, unless you find your people, unless you find people who are also indigos or crystals and are just seeing things from a place of their own integrity, usually, which isn't necessarily, you know, what is going on in the general public. So oftentimes these people will be very quiet and very observant in their earlier years, and they don't generally relate, so they don't know how to interact, and so they might almost seem troubled at first, you know, because, again, they're extremely emotionally sensitive beings, and they're taking in a lot of information, and they're not really quite sure how they're going to navigate. So these types of people, once they connect and open up their crown and step into their power with it and do some energy healing and realize, oh, I don't have to go along with what everybody else is telling me to do. I really do get to stand on my own power and listen to my own internal compass and dial up my frequency and tune into my divine guidance and go from that place. Then they become leaders, and they have something different to say, something that they have to teach that they came here with, which is innate, which is in their DNA, which is stored in them and being updated by the light. So learning how to walk in integrity is another challenge because, you know, people have a tendency to walk away when you don't agree with them or when they're no longer able to manipulate you to do what it is that they want you to do for them. And it also means, you know, you can't manipulate or, you know, be dishonest. You have to really stand in your truth and in your power and work hard, you know, do the things that you need to do to take care of yourself, be self-sustaining. Is a difficult thing for emotionally sensitive people that don't fit in with the world. It takes a little bit of time for them to stand upright and to really spread their wings and to be of service. So, you know, if you're there, you know, and you get nervous, focus on your service. Focus on why it is that you're here, on the altruism of why you're here, the reasons behind why you do the things that you do. Because it's fulfilling, it's who you are, it's what you came here to do, it's what you were born to do. People need it, people appreciate it, hopefully. When you're sharing it with the right person. If people are not hearing you and they don't want to hear you and they are tired of you trying to, you know, give them advice, stop. That's not the person that you're meant to be there for. You know, pull your energy back, visualize your own energy coming back to yourself, you know, pray about it, meditate on it, ask, you know, where is it that I'm meant to go be of service? Where am I going to have the biggest impact? Who needs to hear what it is that I have to say? Where should I share that? You know, and really listen for an answer. Eventually, if, you know, being an example, the right people are going to be attracted to what it is that you're sharing rather than you having to chase them down and like force them to hear what it is that you have to say. So earlier in a person's psychic development, they'll often want to, you know, do healing work on their friends and family, which is fine when you're practicing, but really your friends and family aren't your clients. They have a different kind of a relationship with you. And it's okay to be a light worker in a soul group where you're all friends and in your community, but when you're friends or when you're family, it's a very different experience. They want to be on the level with you. They want the relationship to be, you know, mutual, where they have what they're about and you have what you're about, and everybody's minding their own business and nobody's telling each other what to do, and they're just allowing themselves to be who they are, and you're accepting of each other. And that's not to say we're not doing that when we're at work, when we're holding space for another person, but like when I'm holding space for another person, I'm not connected to it with my emotions, because that would get my ego in the way. That would be personal. So this is not personal. When I step aside from it and I'm bringing through information from that person's spirit group, from their higher self, from their ancestors, from their high vibrational spirit guides, I'm really listening to a message that's specifically for them, and it doesn't have anything to do with me. If I had a relationship with that person who I was doing that for, it would be harder to do that. It would be harder to stay objective. So what we're doing is we're stepping aside from our personal attachment, because you don't want to be in attachment when you're doing this work, and you want to call your higher self to pull you up and really listen for this divine guidance and bring it through. And you only do that when you're asked, you know, if somebody is asking you for help. Nobody likes to have somebody walking around trying to force them to get help if they don't need it, but you walking around being in a higher vibration and emitting light sometimes is all you really need to do as a light worker and as a healer. It's just holding a certain frequency and really just being there for people and being a model of what it is to be in integrity, living your truth, and following your inner compass. That's very beautiful to have in your family. It's very beautiful to have in your community, to be that kind of a person. So there's different kinds of abilities too. So some people are very prone to really hearing, you know, loved ones who are on the other side, who are spirit people. Some people are more inclined to listening to, you know, star beings. Those people are usually called star seeds, and they will be very, very connected to, you know, Pleiades, Sirius, Andromeda, Arcturus, are some of the ones that are coming to mind right now. The Lyria, there's a whole bunch of them. So there's these really beautiful, benevolent, high frequency light beings that come in to watch over the earth plane and assist us and activate us and heal us, and they're wonderful. But those people who are really into that maybe are doing more activation work, more healing work, more channeling and bringing through this cosmic knowledge, or spiritual teachers. Sometimes they are psychic too, and they'll get like really super intuitive messages, but they're on a different frequency. It's a higher frequency. When you're working with spirit people, they aren't necessarily vibrating at the 5th dimension and higher. So it's a different frequency. Some people are really strong with their manifestation ability, and they have a really powerful way of being able to envision and call in a particular future outcome. And they're really good at producing and making things happen, and powerful leaders that way. It's a really strong gift, but they might not necessarily be psychic and be able to pull through like read a person's unconscious, or read a person's thoughts, or read a person's past lifetimes or their timelines, or go into future possibilities, of which there are many future possibilities based on what you're healing and what signal you're putting out into the universe. And that's more than just positive thinking to make something happen, to bring something in. There are specific things that are in your soul contracts from past lifetimes that you are still learning about, that you can't really avoid. Those are the things that are more fate, you know, that tend to keep cycling back to you. Those types of things are, you know, I have a tendency to really help people through that as of late, working through ancestral karmic cleansing, working through your timelines. I work with a lot of shamanic medicine to understand and dial into soul purpose and soul healing, and, you know, try to understand what's going on there. Because there are certain things that no matter how much manifestation a person does, you can't outrun your karma. You just can't. You can have really good intentions and think positively and hold space for you to walk through this stuff, but some of these things we have to walk through. It's part of our soul journey. It's part of our lessons. And it's part of how we are going to manifest something better, because once you walk through it, then you can clear the slate and start a new chapter. So that's what I'll say about some of these abilities. They, like when I first started doing this, I was more of a clairsentient empath. I could feel a lot, and I could also see. I could see spirit really well. But I didn't hear yet. I had learned how to tune things out, because I'm actually very telepathic, so it was rough for me to have to deal with that. So I learned how to tune it out. Really hearing what people are thinking is not a very fun thing. You might think that it is, but it's really a trip how much people don't share what is really going on. They will say something totally different, something that they think you want to hear, or something that is more socially acceptable. And if you're somebody who can actually feel, sense, and hear them, it's having to get used to people lying all of the time, which will hurt your feelings if you're emotionally sensitive. So I learned how to tune it out. I didn't like that ability very much. I've learned now that I don't have to listen to people, and it's actually not something that I do unless I'm invited or I'm supposed to. So I've learned that it's something that you can turn off and you can turn back in. So a nice thing to say to people is, can I step into your vibration? And, you know, I usually wait. I have a business where I do readings, and I wait for people to ask me for a reading. And because I have that, I use my ability, you know, when I'm at work, and the rest of the time, I don't need to. I get to experience doing something different. I still have it. I can still listen for my own, you know, wisdom and guidance to come through from my guides, but I don't feel the need to tune into what's going on with other people, and I don't have to anymore. I've gotten really good at turning it on, turning it down, turning it up, turning it down. And that just took years and years and years of practice of learning to master my abilities with my intention and trying to figure out where the switch is. Now the switch is your curiosity. If you're curious about something, chances are you're just gonna go right into that. If you have these abilities, you're just gonna tune into it without knowing how you're doing it. it's a desire. You have a desire to do that. So, for example, when I drive by a cemetery, I purposely don't look. I purposely just, I start thinking about something else, because I know it would just take a second for me to just be curious or tune into it, for there to be like a ghost by my window talking to me, and I don't want that on my day off. You know what I mean? So I've learned how to not be curious about what's going on with other people. It's their business. What's going on with them is none of my business. You know, even when I do readings, it's still none of my business. I've been learning how to let go of attachment for many, many years, which has made my life a lot easier. So another thing that made it easier was learning how to turn my clairaudience back on, because just seeing what was going on with a person's energy, seeing the colors in their auras and that type of thing, if I didn't know what it meant, then it didn't really do me a whole lot of good. So, and it would be intermittent too. So like if you're at a place in your life where you're taking toxins into your body, you know, if you're suffering from any kind of addiction, or if you're not eating very well, or not drinking enough water, or, you know, eating a lot of junk food, or doing lower vibrational things, or just emotionally clogged, like there's a lot of stored emotions in your body that you haven't expressed or felt, and you're sort of just shoving it down inside, not dealing with, pushing it away, you're not going to have a whole lot of your energy to be able to open up spiritually and be in your power and have all of that at your disposal. So that's another reason why we do a lot of healing, so that we can clear all those blocks, so that you can be a clear channel and really have full access to all of your clairs. And sometimes people have learned how to shut off, you know, their clairvoyance from past lifetime stuff. Many times in a soul journey of light workers, there's been trauma for people opening up their abilities in past lifetimes who, you know, have been through some sort of persecution. So there's this, or abuse their power in some way. Sometimes spiritual people have had lifetimes where they were wounded, and they were acting out from a place of wounding and not using their abilities for the highest good of all. And it's more common than you would think. And there's no judgment if that's part of your past lifetime history and you want to clear it up. I'm grateful that you would be coming to me for that, and I'm definitely here for you. I do a lot of work to help awaken light workers and help to clear their timelines and help them to step up into who they are, and give them a lot of compassion and support around the things that have happened in past lifetimes to cause them to not want to use their abilities. This is the time where we have come to step up and use our abilities for the highest good. People are ready for it. People are awakening. It's a lot more mainstream. The witch trials are not here anymore, hopefully. So it's a good time to clear that up. But if you don't know why you have this like unsure feeling about whether or not you should be using your abilities, or if your gifts scare you, there's usually a history, and that history is in your Akashic records. So it's nice to get an Akashic record healing, or an Akashic record reading, to have some insight into why that might be happening, to assist you in being able to open up your clairs. So I do a lot of work to, you know, there's something called the Seer's Rites, where we open up the cerebral cortex and we bring energy through these centers, and that's in the Monarchy, and that's offered freely on my channel here. And we connected in with our high heart energy to be able to open up and experience a loving, higher vibrational presence in our clairvoyance, help us to see in a loving way and feel supported and nourished and healed in our vision. And in order to be able to have psychic vision like that, you have to be willing to see stuff. If there's stuff that you didn't want to hear or see, chances are you'll learn how to tune it out, okay? Like, that just, you know, like if you had somebody who was constantly negative when you were growing up, you'll learn how to like tune that out. Or if there's a lot of stuff going on that you don't want to see, like people who had to watch, you know, war or fighting or things like that. They have learned how to tune that stuff out. So when you open it back up, you're opening back up those places where you have this stored energy of trauma, and that needs to clear out. But it works a lot better when you have, you know, beautiful angels watching over and helping you to listen to your intuitive feedback, particularly about the stuff that is still stored that you haven't dealt with yet. Okay. So it's not something that happens overnight. There are some things that you're born with. There are some things that you have to reclaim from your past. And sometimes activations happen from other people coming together. You can't heal all this stuff in isolation. So when you get together in a class, or when you come in for a healing, or if you're drawn to a particular person for some reason, or, you know, you're there because there's an activation that's going to happen. And it happens when two or more are gathered. So that kind of stuff is really powerful. That's when you start finding your soul family and the people that you've had past lifetimes with, and you're here to tie up loose ends and clear up soul contracts and, you know, recover soul fragments, soul retrieval work, and remember. And the remembering is really healing. It's really empowering, and it's also really painful and really hard. But the when you walk through it and you push through it, there is a rebirth that can happen for people, which is what we're all going for. But the awakening process isn't always about oming and being in the perfect yoga pose and crystals and angels. It's often a lot of work to have that awakening process. So I've seen a lot of people get into this profession right away because it's more popular these days. So sometimes people will take, you know, Reiki 1, 2, and 3 really fast, and then go out there and start teaching, or not take any classes and just go right out there and start showing up for people, because the field is an unregulated field, and it's not like there's anyone that's going to stop you from doing that. But when you do that without any kind of training or experience, or doing the own inner work first, it's more challenging to be able to really do it, because holding space for other people, you have to really know what's going on with you to be able to do that, and to not get triggered, and to not get knocked over, and to be really, really grounded, and to be able to hold the light and the container for other people to be able to come in. You need to be able to have the wisdom and the compassion to know what it is that they're going through, because you've been through it and you've lived it and you've healed from it. Now, sometimes healing from it is more painful than going through it in the first place. So, and there's layers of healing. Like, there's a lot of people who will say, oh yeah, I already dealt with that, you know, but as long as you're in a body, you know, you're still evolving, you're still growing. There's always going to be places where you're still growing and you're still expanding. So I'm not saying that you have to wait till you're totally healed, because wherever you're at, you're going to have wisdom to share with somebody else. But what I'm talking about is people who step out and they start to want to hold space for huge groups of people, like right away. That happened to me when I first started. I had a lot of people offer me jobs like that right away, because you know, I was part of other organizations where there were a lot of people who needed that sort of thing, and I was very well connected because I wasn't over here in the metaphysical community, you know, super tied in with all these people. I was over here where they needed somebody like that, but they didn't know anybody. They knew me. And so they tried to pull me in when I was brand new. So I had to learn, like, you know what? I don't know that I can hold space for that many people at this point in my career. I'm going to have to decline that job and get used to working with one person at a time, 2 people at a time, 3 people at a time, until I really can hold space for more people. And that took a while. I've had students who decide to go out and do it right away, and then they come back and they're worried that they're not able to hold space for all these people, and they're not, you know. So it takes time. It takes a lot of activation work. You know, I've done 7 different levels of Reiki. There's the Monarchy rites, where there's 9 different shamanic rites that help build up your light body, what they call your rainbow light body. Adding in these bands of power, protection. There's learning how to work with spirit guides for them to be able to come in and help you hold space for all of these people There's really integrating, doing your own integration work, your shadow work, working with the ego, connecting with your higher self, working with your inner child, working through past lifetimes. There's learning how to activate your Merkaba field of light. There's a whole lot of things. So I do have a Vimeo channel where you can subscribe, and it's incredibly reasonable, where you can begin your journey working through this, and it's the Psychic Development Program, and I'll put the links in the description box below. I have a lot of classes that I offer for free, some that I charge money for, and then I also have Zoom classes if you want to work with me and work in a group and have those activations with a group full of people. I also open up my home here. I have a home office here in Capitol Beach where people are allowed to come in person and receive activations and attunements and rites, as well as shamanic clearings and readings. So all of those links will be at the bottom. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you soon.